Hi everyone, Dr. Nash here. In this clip we're going to be looking at evaluating sources, and rather than put together a document that would show you how to evaluate sources, I've decided to go to the library site because the new Discover layer underneath there, they've really put together a good way of evaluating sources. So on the main USC website, what we're going to do is click on the library button here. It takes us to the Discover level. If you go to Subject, Help and Research Guides, you will, hopefully you've got access to Core 109, so if you click on Subject, you should be able to have the access to this no matter what. Click on Core 109, and then on the tabs along the top here, you have the evaluating sources, and this is what we want to get to. So in terms of evaluating these sources, you can see it's got the pie chart there of the different things that you should be thinking about. Bias of the author, the authority the author has to write on it, the currency of the publication, the content of the publication, and the accuracy of the information. You've got to remember here that the sources you use have to be credible. You want to use credible information so that the conclusions you draw from the information that you're using are accurate, that they are credible themselves, and that you are using the best information possible. So think about, who is the author? Have they been cited by other books? Quite often the measure of a really good book is to have a look and see whether the author has been cited in other works, or if they actually cite a lot of material themselves. Who is the publisher? Are they published by a university press? Is it a reputable publisher that they're being published through? So there's quite a bit there that you can have a look at. In terms of currency, in some disciplines, currency doesn't particularly matter because they've been looked at for so long, but then in other disciplines, in something like communication, you've got to realize that communication's evolving so quick. You need to have the most up-to-date information, which means that your more recent publications are always going to be better. If you're looking at something from 1994 or earlier in communication in Australia, it won't be acknowledging the existence of the internet, and that can be very problematic. In terms of the content, is it relevant? Is the target audience appropriate? All those sorts of things, is the information fact? You've just got to make sure that you are evaluating it. Remember that when you use sources to support your work, if they don't have credibility, then neither does your work, and neither do the conclusions that you draw from that work. Accuracy as well. Quite often you can be looking at things like scholarly and being peer reviewed and these sorts of things to make sure that the information is correct. Can the information be verified for accuracy in other sources? So you've got to be looking at it. Even things like looking at the bibliographies and looking at the information that person or the author has particularly used. And finally, there is the bias. Is the author associated with an organization that has a clear bias on the topic? And this can happen. You've got to remember that you've got to evaluate the sources. These people are speaking for you, and they're supporting your arguments that you put forward, or the claims you put forward if you're going to draw conclusions and make recommendations in something like a report. So it is quite important. Hopefully that will give you a bit of a leg up. You've got to really critically analyse and evaluate the sources that you do use to make sure you give your work the support it needs. As always, it's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it. Keep on studying.